Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, martes, el 13 de septiembre. You guys did have an assignment due for today. It is the present tense conjugation worksheet. You guys can look at the daily agenda video from last class for instructions on how to go about this. But pretty straightforward. You guys are using the notes from last class, page 9 of the textbook. And you have the AR, ER, and IR regular present tense endings highlighted there, and you're using those to correctly conjugate the verbs provided in parentheses according to the subject that's provided in each sentence. So that's what was due for today. Due for next class is the Presentación Escrita Oral, página 13. Two parts to this presentation. One is written, and the other is oral, and I'll walk you through that assignment here in just a moment. Daily objectives are to practice listening, comprehension, and recognition of those present tense conjugations, and then to practice demonstrating mastery of the understanding of the grammatical relationship between nouns and adjectives and how they need to agree in both gender, masculine, feminine, and number, singular, plural. Warm-up question is, ¿Qué haces los fines de semana? What do you do on the weekends? We'll review the Chapter 1 study guide now that everybody should be all caught up in having made up your exam from last week. Do a quick review of the grammatical concepts of adjective-noun agreement, and then also present tense conjugations, and then we'll take a look at your presentation, which is homework for next class. Notes are those endings, present tense endings that we went over last week. And you guys are going to use those to knock out your warm-up for today. Again, asking, ¿Qué haces los fines de semana? For today's warm-up, write two activities that you typically do on the weekends and conjugate those verbs in the yo form. For example, en los fines de semana, yo veo la televisión y paso tiempo con mis amigos. So, ver is the verb to watch. Pasar is the verb to spend. And both of those you can see conjugated in the yo form using that all present tense ending. Then ask the question, ¿Qué haces los fines de semana? To two classmates, and for each one, just jot down one of the two verbs that they share with you and make sure to change the verb into the él, ella form. So for example, en los fines de semana, Sebastián toca la guitarra y va al cine. Toca would be the él, ella, usted form of the verb tocar, and then ir is irregular. Voy in the yo form, vas in the to form, va. Vamos and van would be the conjugations of ir, and those are on page 42 or 43 of the textbook. That would be the él, ella form of the verb ir. So for your warm-up, two things that you do, and then for two classmates, just one activity in the él, ella, usted form. All right, let's take a look at the homework. Presentación Escrita Oral. You guys can click on it here or here where it says Tarea para la próxima clase, homework for next class. And you can see a rundown of, it's actually a poem that you guys are going to create. You can do a rough draft. We'll work on the rough draft in class, and actually you'll have time to work on the final draft as well on the laptops. And so the final draft will be a PowerPoint or a Google slide. You can even, write it on a poster or an A4 sheet of printer paper, and then include some pictures as well. And then you guys are going to do an oral presentation. So you're going to recite orally your responses to this. So let's walk through each part. 7 parts to this. The first part, you're going to write your name. And actually, let me pull up my example as well for you. I'll kind of go back and forth between this. So for part 1, you're going to begin with me llamo, to say my name is, and then your name. Me llamo, and then the name that you prefer to go by. For part 2, escribe dos adjetivos que no te describen. Write 2 adjectives that do not describe you. So the way that we set that up, Yo no soy is how you'll begin to say I am not. Yo no soy, and then two adjectives that don't describe you. Make sure that those adjectives agree in gender and that they end in O if you identify as male, or that they end in A if you identify as female. If you are gender fluid or gender neutral, you can use the at symbol. That's not formally recognized in the language, but we're kind of forcing the language to catch up with the time. So you're welcome to do that for your gender fluid endings. All right. So two adjectives that don't describe you, and then for number three adjectives that do describe you. So you're going to begin part 3 with yo soy, and then 3 adjectives that describe you. Gender neutral adjectives end in E, and they end in E regardless of the speaker, so you don't need to change those at all. For the fourth part, write 4 activities that you do every day. Escribe 4 actividades que haces todos los días. Todos los días is how you'll begin, and then I need to see 4 verbs in the yo form. Remember, the yo form is ending in O, just like how we saw in the notes, right? So 4 verbs where you're going to remove the AR, remove the ER, or remove the IR from the infinitive. You're left with the stem, as you can see, and then add to that stem your yo present tense ending. As you can see in my example, yo estudio, yo paso tiempo con familia, yo escucho música y leo. 4 activities in total for that fourth part. And then just a few more to go. For number 5, escribe 3 actividades que tus amigos y tú hacen en el verano, summertime. So begin with en el verano, in the summer. Mis amigos y yo, and since you're talking about my friends and I, that's a plural subject. And with it being plural, you're going to use the nosotros form. Whatever verbs you choose, conjugate them in the nosotros form. For example, mis amigos y yo caminamos, visitamos San Francisco y cenamos juntos. And then the last part, number 6, is escribe 2 actividades que nunca haces. 2 activities that you never, nunca, you never do. Yo nunca is how you'll begin to say I never. And then 2 verbs in the yo form. Yo nunca dibujo o cocino. I never cook or draw. And then just finish off with saying así soy yo, to say that is who I am, or that's how I am. So change up here where it's in the options. You guys are going to change the orientation to this middle one, so you kind of get that diamond look, as it's a poema en diamante, diamond poem. And then that gives you some space in the corners where you can put some images. You can put pictures, you can draw pictures. I don't want Google images, I don't want anything generic, I want you, because this is all about you. So 4 images that reflect you, just like how you guys did for your Quien Soy Yo autobiographical presentation, and this is what you guys are going to submit. And just like how I'm creating a video now, you too can do the same thing and create an oral component or provide an oral component to this. So you're going to have a video and say, hola, señor Kerry, esta es mi presentación, así soy yo, and then go ahead and dive right on in. Me llamo, yo no soy. You're just going to recite orally your presentation. So you can create a video and submit the video. That would suffice for both the oral and written component. Or you can submit 2 files. One file that's the written component, which would be your PowerPoint or Google slide, and then another file that's the audio recording or video recording of you reciting what you've written, what you've composed. My recommendation is a video because it'd be all together, all in one file. But you can do you, whatever works best for you. That is due for next class, y'all. Nos vemos en clase. Ciao. Adios.